So last week I made a video giving a lot of trash to Ciryl Gane, and I've also been pretty harsh to Brian Ortega for these reasons, but to be fair, we've all been pretty harsh to Brian Ortega, and quite frankly, he deserves it. He too needs to get back in the cage. And this video is about UFC lightweight Dustin Poirier, another person that needs to get back in the cage. But the point of the Ciryl Gane rant was that he hadn't done enough to warrant a title shot. So get back in the cage and fight some damn contenders. Yeah, that was the overall point of that. That brings me to today's conversation about Dustin Poirier. We all know they should be the same thing, right? Ciryl doesn't deserve a title shot. Dustin doesn't deserve a title shot. So Dustin too, get back in the cage and fight. Well, this is where things get a little bit different, okay? Dustin hasn't called for a title shot. He's called for something fun. That makes it a little bit different to what Ciryl Gane has called for. So maybe that, maybe that deserves a bit of a different reaction. Although it is not like Dustin doesn't want a title shot. It came out that the UFC asked him if he would step in on short notice at the Abu Dhabi event. Dustin said yes, but then he never heard from the UFC again. So does that mean that if Alexander Volkanovski had said no, they would have gone with Dustin Poirier instead? Does that mean that Dusty is just putting on a Israel Adesanya and sitting back and seeing what happens? We all know that he wants to fight at UFC 300. He's made that very clear. But then again, what fighter doesn't want to fight at UFC 300? We know that Dusty, he pulls big numbers. He's a big name. He could carry a pay-per-view on his own or add significant value to it. But should he be allowed to just sit around and be a rankings hog if he doesn't want to fight up-and-coming contenders and just wants these fun matches? This is now going to start affecting our very new addition to the UFC top 5, Armin Tsarukyan. And it does look like lightweight overall is now entering a bit of a changing of the guard. I think the only way that we're going to have all of this sorted, it really hinges on whether or not they can find a fun fight for Dustin at UFC 300. Or is UFC 300 going to be too stacked of a card? We could be looking at 3 title fights on that card. Unfortunately, with all the speculating that everyone is doing about UFC 300, I don't think we're going to get any answers on UFC 300 until the end of Jan, or maybe even at UFC 297. Like, they could announce it as a trailer during that event. I can really see a world where a lot of the fights for UFC 300 are already done, or at least being finalized in the coming weeks as we speak. And the fighters and their management have signed non-disclosure statements, and the entire thing is just being kept as a big secret until the UFC are ready to drop their big reveal trailer, like they did with Brock Lesnar at UFC 200 at the end of that trailer. Except this time they've sent out a message to all the fighters, the MMA media, and their management. If you leak the news of UFC 300, you're going to be as blackballed as Ariel Helwani is. And the only reason he's still relevant is because the fighters keep going on his show. That is what they're waiting for UFC 300. But, Doug, I hear you say, what has this got to do in any way with Armin Tsarukyan? Why are you blabbing on about UFC 300? Well, because we are at a changing of the guard at lightweight, and Islam wants to fight early in the year before Ramadan, and Dustin wants to fight at 300. That means we aren't going to know what's going to happen next. That is until those chess pieces move across the board and fall into place. If UFC 300 drops, we get the card, and Dusty isn't on it, this is how I think we should start pushing for the pieces to start falling into place. Dusty cannot sit around and just be a rankings hog wanting fun fights. I mean, he's done so much for the sport, we can give him a pass for one on UFC 300, but if it doesn't work out for UFC 300, it's time to get also back in the cage. So, how would I like to see the new shakeout at lightweight? Let me know what you think about this. Beneil Dariush, if you would like to keep fighting, you're up against Jalen Turner, okay? Dustin, you lost your last one, so it's time for you to step up against Mateus Gamrot, okay? That means the person who beat Benny can fight the up-and-coming contender who also just beat Benny, and this person doesn't even want to fight the champion. So, Charles Oliveira versus Armin Tsarukyan. Charles, you've been offered the champ. You've made it very clear you don't want to fight the champ. The champ is only fighting in the United Arab Emirates or countries like that, and you've made it very clear that you don't want to fight in those countries. So Oliveira, you too cannot be a rankings hog. You both beat Beneil, so you can both stack up together and let's have a fight for the #1 contender. And if Oliveira wants to continue ducking Islam and not fighting in the Arab nations and the Muslim nations, then just keep throwing contenders at Oliveira. This is the only way to make it fair. And that leaves Islam Makhachev. He should be fighting Justin Gaethje. There is a lot of talk going around that that fight is going to happen in Saudi Arabia. I think that fight will happen with the Saudis, and that's the way that lightweight should shake out going forward. So once we have the news of UFC 300, then we can sort out the news of the UFC's most important division, the lightweight division. That is the new lightweight mix. And if it all goes to plan, you are going to have a new lightweight crop of Jalen Turner, Mateus Gamrot, Armin Tsarukyan, and of course Islam Makhachev, the new Khabib. And there might still just be one of the old guards still in the mix. Will it be Oliveira? Will it be Gaethje? Who's going to survive out of that mix? Still clinging to the mountain, trying to re-win or win a lightweight title. And then we can start churning through these kids. And finally, we are going to have a lightweight division like mixed up in 2024, a whole new top 5, top 6 at lightweight, which I'm so keen for. We have seen these old guards, the Chandlers, the Poiriers, the Oliveiras, we've seen them fight each other, churning over rematches and just mixing around for so long now. It's going to be so good to see a new guard up in that top 5 and to get some fresh new contenders for the lightweight belt. And having said that, there's also that human nuclear reactor just stalking around waiting to get in there as well, Benoit Saint-Denis. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next for him. So what is next for Armin Tsarukyan? Unfortunately, we have to wait. We have to wait until UFC 300 is resolved. We have to wait until Islam and Saudi Arabia is resolved, but I cannot wait to see what happens next. Let me know what you think is going to be next for Armin Tsarukyan down in the comments. If you're still here, if you're still watching this video, then hopefully I've entertained you or given you something to think about in some way. If you could do me a favor and just go ahead and click on that subscribe button and see how you like these videos popping up on your feed for like a week or whatever. And if you're not enjoying these videos, you can always just click unsubscribe. That's totally fine. Again, let me know what you think about Armin Tsarukyan, what's next for him down in the comments. And of course, I'll see you all in the next video.